What's going on, guys? Tyson the Trainer here, back with another video for you. Just gonna edit that camera so it looks nice and clear. So today, I want to talk to you guys about, sometimes things get tough, and I've talked to you guys about this before, about falling off track. And it's okay if you do fall off track. The most important thing is getting back on track. And one of the biggest things we can do when we want to get back on track is go back to re-looking at our why. All right. So thinking about why you're really doing this in the first place. So for me, for example, because I went away in Thailand and I was enjoying myself and all these things were happening, I put on a fair bit of weight. Nothing crazy, just like 4 kilos. But with that weight being increased, it has then made me feel a little bit down because I need to get back down on my weight. And then it also kind of like it just makes you think about all these things that go through your head. I'm not sure if it's for you, but for me it's like, am I really an athlete? Should I be doing this? Why can't I stay on track? All these things can go through our head, and it can be very easy for us to get in this internal dialogue and start making ourselves feel down, and it's completely normal. Okay? You're not alone on this. But one thing I want to help you kind of understand is the way I've done it for myself too, when you want to get back on track, if it has been a rough patch, you don't try and go balls to the wall again. You don't try and start everything from the start. You just accept that where you're at the moment is you have to build yourself back up. And the best way to build yourself back up is to develop small wins. It's such an underrated thing that people forget about because they think I was here, now I'm here and I need to get back to here. Why can't I get back here again? For those of you who aren't watching, I've got like a high hand and then a low hand and then back to the high, And we always look back to where we were and we're like, why can't I get back there? However, things have changed, Your lifestyle is fluid. So even in the last month or two, it could have changed dramatically. You could have moved. You could have been broken up with. You could have got into a relationship. Work could have got hectic. All these things could have happened. And now you're at a point where you're like, why can't I be back to where I was? The good thing is you possibly can, depending on what it was or where you were. But it's not like it's a flick of the switch and you're just going to be back to where you were. You have to build up that momentum. And when we work on building that momentum, it starts with building that confidence and small wins. It's so easy for us to get caught up in thinking we should be back to where we were. We try and go back to what we were doing, but our body is quite, not resentful, but it's like, adherent to, is adherent the right word? You've got a bit of friction with your body wanting to go back to where you were, with the habits you were doing, the routine you had. And sometimes, again, it's hard. It's hard to muster all that willpower and to get you back in the right headspace. And so that's why when you start with small wins and you build yourself back up, it makes it easy to eventually get there, but you have to accept you're going to have to start back down here. And there's nothing wrong with, if you're at 100 and now you're at 50 or you're at 0, there's nothing wrong with climbing back up to 100 and taking time versus getting to 100 as fast as possible. Okay? Because again, this is you. You're on your own journey as an athlete. Not everyone around is going to be thinking about, oh, what happened to him? Why isn't he back up here? Or everyone's on their own journey. And so you can't be thinking about what they may be thinking of you or if people are going to be judging you, because at the end of the day, everyone cares about themselves, right? You're thinking about your struggles, not anyone else's struggles. And so with this, what you need to do is, again, start developing those small wins. So if you've come fully off track, unhinged, and you were doing all these really, really good habits, think about realistically, what can you do first to give you a little win to build that momentum up? And that doesn't mean going back, if you've stopped training, it doesn't mean going back to training 7 days a week. Maybe it's training 4 days a week. All right. Maybe instead of dieting really strictly, it just means making better food decisions for the first week or two and cutting down your portions. That's exactly what I did. I'm not like, all right, I've been enjoying myself, straight back into the diet mode, because for me, I can't always just turn it on. I can if I've been enjoying myself and, maintaining for a long period of time like I did last year. And I was able to flick that switch because I was in a maintenance phase for a whole 12 months and I was ready to diet. But sometimes, if we've enjoyed ourselves for a month or two, we're not in that good headspace to just flick the switch again. And it may take time to happen. So instead, you're like, all right, instead of me dieting for the first 2 weeks, I'm going to start tidying things up. I'm going to cut back on the junk food. I'm going to give myself regular meal times. I'm going to make sure I get enough protein in during the day. Really, really simple things to get you started, because guess what? Once you have a few wins under your belt, you have confidence to keep pushing. And every day you build up those wins, is another day you have more confidence, more confidence, more confidence. And then you're going to be back at 100. And it might take a little bit longer than you think, okay? But guess what? You're going to get back there. However, if you try and go from 0 to 100 straight away, you're probably going to have some fails again, and you're going to break down that confidence even more. And then what happens? We get into that mental self-talk, that negative mental self-talk. And we're like, oh man, here we go again. Why can't I stick to it? You're a fucking failure. Why can't you get your head back in the game? You know, everyone else seems to be doing well. Why can't you? Why can't you turn it on? You're supposed to be able to, be an athlete and be, what's the word I'm trying to think of? A leader for people or whatever it is. Like, we can really get in this internal dialogue, and it's not good. It's not healthy to talk yourself down, because then you're lowering your confidence, and then you become resentful of yourself. It's like a boss, right? You're like, all right, I need to improve my standards. I need to get better and better. So you've done this project for your boss, and you go and give it to your boss, and he goes, oh yeah, but there's 2 spelling mistakes here. You're like, yeah, but I got it done 2 days ahead of time, like you asked me to. He's like, yeah, but there's spelling mistakes. Can you do better next time? And you're like, okay. Like, it's not a grammar thing. You had this project, you delivered all the numbers, everything was there, but he looked at the grammar. He's like, the grammar's wrong. And you're like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, you do the same thing. And this time he's like, oh, you actually, you missed a full stop here. And you're like, all right. He's like, you didn't have an end slide to your presentation as a thank you. And you're like, oh, okay, sorry. But he never points out any of the good things. And what does that make you do? Feel resentful, feel upset. You're like, this guy doesn't fucking value me. The same, or girl, the same thing with yourself. If you do not celebrate your wins, if you do not build up small wins and confidence, you are going to negatively self-talk. And then when you negative self-talk, what do? Become resentful of yourself. And you're like, fuck this, what's the point of me doing this? Oh, it's not even worth it. And you start to get in your own head. And then guess what? We self-sabotage. So instead, work on having humility, taking a step back, accepting that progress is probably going to be slower than you want it to be, but think about the process itself and how you're going to get back to there. And it doesn't matter when, you think about every day, you're going to move that needle one step in the right direction, one step at a time. And every fucking day you do that, guess what? You build your confidence more. You get more excited. You know you're on the right track. And you're like, yeah, I can fucking do this. And all of a sudden, this process, you've got to where you need to be. And now you're back to where you were. But then guess what? At some point in time in the future, you're probably going to fall off track again. And then what do you do from there? You start to move the needle back in the right direction again. Because this is life, and life is fluid. And things get tough and things get hard, and we fall off track and we lose momentum, and sometimes we lose our identity. But if we start to have those little focuses and we start to develop those wins over time, you're going to get back towards where you want to go. All right? So it doesn't matter where you are now. It's okay. You can get back to being your top athlete self. It will just take time. And again, accept where you are now. Think about that big end goal. Think about the steps you've got to take there. Build up that confidence one step at a time, and you're going to get back there. So I hope that was a bit of a helpful mental self-talk for you guys. If you have any questions, send me an Instagram message at tysonthetrainerr with 2 R's. And until next time, speak to you.